Hello, and welcome to today's webcast on the new mobile app for AutoSys Workload Automation, AutoSight. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, Anthony Askew. He's one of Extra Technology's chief architects and practice manager. He joined Extra Technology in 2011 and is a subject matter expert in our CA Broadcom automation technologies. My name is Jean Rissmiller, Product Marketing for AutoSys here at CA, a Broadcom company. So without further ado, I'd like to turn the webcast over to Anthony Askew. Anthony?
Yeah, thanks, Jean. Hope you can all hear me okay. So as Jean said, today I'm going to take you on a quick tour through AutoSight, which is a new mobile app that we have created to work with your AutoSys instances. And the mobile app runs on both iOS and Android platforms. And just a little tiny bit of technical background at the beginning is the app communicates to AutoSys through the optional AutoSys REST web server, which means that the app should be compatible with any version of AutoSys from 11.3.5 or higher. We do recommend you use the latest service pack of AutoSys to get all the full features that are available through the REST service. But there's a pretty big list of compatible release versions of AutoSys. So let me go ahead and launch the AutoSight app on my device right now. There we go, and hopefully you can see that screen. And what I'm going to do now is log into the app, and I'm going to connect to a test AutoSys instance that we've created for this demo called ET1, which you can hopefully see at the top of the list there. So now I touch on ET1. It's a shame you can't see my fingers. And I'll enter the password, log in to this instance. Now, because this is using the REST Web Services server for AutoSys, all of the authentication in the app and authorization is handled at the back end of AutoSys by the EEM component. So you have to have EEM to use the REST web server, and the mobile app that I'm showing you today has no configuration within the app for security or permissions. It's all enforced at the back end by your EEM installation. So if you already have policies controlling access to jobs and machines and so on, then these are enforced right the way through to the mobile device. So your security is already kind of in place. So what you can see now is the launch pad for the app, and that divides into three sections because those are the logical three areas that are exposed through the REST web server, So there are three buttons on the launch pad that hopefully you can see here, labeled jobs, machines, and global variables. And what we'll do is we'll go through each of these sections in turn and show you some of the things that you can do with this mobile app when it's connected to your back-end AutoSys instance or instances. So the first thing I shall touch on is jobs, which I've done there. And what you can see in front of you here is a list of AutoSys jobs that this user that I've logged in as is able to view within this AutoSys instance. Now, obviously, all of your jobs may have different names, totally different naming conventions, but so that it's clear, the jobs in this instance are all called ET1-Demo01 or Demo02 and so on, listed down the screen here. So hopefully you can see that there are a bunch of jobs listed here, and the second column down in the table shows me the status of these jobs, which are currently all in a success status. So there's a table here showing me lots of jobs, and this table is in pages. It's paginated. So if you could see towards the top, there are previous and next buttons. So I have multiple pages of jobs viewable here. If I touch next, I can jump through to the second page, the third page, and look at jobs. Previous, I'll go back to the beginning. Just above that, hopefully you can see that there is a search section. So if I want to search for a particular job or use a wildcard to limit the list of jobs that is displayed, I could, for example, put some search criteria in here, such that I'm only interested in jobs with 02 in the name of them, for example, and that will tailor the list further. There are lots of ways to tailor this list. I'll just put this back to the default. Another powerful feature that we have for searching for particular jobs within this job view pane is the little filters button, which is towards the top on the right. It looks like the three little kind of sliders. What I'm going to do is touch on that one now, and that will drop me into the filtering search criteria pane, and there are two sets of attributes that we could filter on to further refine the view of jobs that we're interested in. The first set of things we could filter on is job status. So hopefully, as you can see here, there are lots of different statuses available for jobs in AutoSys, but we've grouped these logically. And if I, for example, am only interested in jobs that are in a failure status, I can have failure and terminated together, or I could simply limit this to just the failure status just by touching on the ticks that I want to have enabled in the search. Hopefully you get the idea. It's a very straightforward way of selecting jobs by particular status. Allied to that, or instead of that, you can mix and match, of course. We also like to offer the ability to filter by different job types. As we know, there are many, many different types of job in AutoSys, and again, we've logically grouped these. So the standard job types are the ones that you would expect, the ones that are most commonly used, but you may very well only be interested in something like SAP jobs, I'm not sure, or database jobs, something like that. So there are lots of different ways to tailor this tabular list of jobs in front of you, and it's very quick to get a quick summary to see the status of your jobs. Now, along the bottom of this screen, there is a grey bar with extra technology on it, and that has four different icons across the bottom. There's one that looks like a kind of a pie chart with a slice out of it. There's one that looks like a heart. There's one that looks like a clock, and there's one that's supposed to look like a pulse or a line graph or something. So just to explain quickly what those are. Those are another way of filtering your views. So the pie chart one, which is black at the moment, that means show me everything, okay? The next one along, the heart, that means switch to my favorites. So much as you would with your internet browser, you can mark certain jobs as being your favorite jobs. And I've got 3 jobs in my favorite list. If I pop back to the main list, if you look at the job, second one down from the top, hopefully you can see that the little heart over on the right is set to green. That means I've added that one to my favorites list, and I could add some more like this, quite straightforward, and pop them in the favorites list. So if you've got some critical jobs that you really do have to keep an eye on, you can build a list of favorites and always jump straight into that view instead. The further 2 icons over on the right, now the clock shows you all the jobs in your view history in your use in the app, the last 5 jobs that you've looked at in your history, and then the final icon shows you the last 5 jobs that you've taken actions against. So lots of little shortcuts we've tried to put in to try and make it easier to get to the information that you need. So what I will point out here is that there's no back-end server process running to fill what's in the screen here. This is communicating directly with the REST Web Services server for AutoSys at the back end. Okay, so the way that it works is that it sends requests for information or to take actions and receives the results. There's no cache, so there's no flow view in the app. That was a deliberate decision by us not to put a flow in such a small piece of screen real estate. We don't really think it's a good fit. But what it does mean is it's really quick to update itself, and the way that you update any of these screens is to simply pull down on the list of jobs, flick it down the way and wait and let the screen refresh itself like this. That's how quick it is to update the list of jobs. So let's go ahead and dive in now into something a bit more nitty-gritty of what you can actually do with a job. So I'll just jump to my favorites list, and I'll pick the first job on the list, and we'll drop into what's called the job detail screen. So for every job that's in the list, you can jump into this very basic summary of job attributes. So you're able to see what type of job you've got here, which machine it runs on, and a few other attributes that are exposed through the REST service, such as application group and description, and so on. Now, hopefully, at the bottom of the screen, next to the heart, you can see what's called the Hamburger icon. That's a circle with the 3 lines in it. It's supposed to look a bit like a burger. And if I touch on that one, I then fall into the job operations menu for this job. So at the top of the screen, we can see the name of the job and its current status. And then underneath are 2 sections that let us interact with this job. The first section is called Inquiries, and the second one is called Operations. So within the Inquiries section, there are 4 things that we can do, 4 sets of information that we can get for this job. We can get the job details, which we've just looked at. That's the summary screen on the previous screen that we looked at. The next one down is Job Run Information. So if I touch on Job Run Information, then what we should get back from the server, if we give it a second, is all the executions of that job that are available to be viewed from the AutoSys database. So you can probably see that this job runs pretty quickly. It runs every 30 minutes. If I want to see the detail of a run from this screen, I can actually touch one. Let's just pick one at random, touch on that. And we can get into the real further detail of that execution of the job, the start times, end times, and at the bottom, the events for that job. So if you're familiar with the detailed report of AutoRep, that's kind of what this looks like. This shows you the different statuses that the job went through. So there's lots of detailed information about job execution available in here. I'll just pop back to my favorites list and deliberately pick the next one down to show you job dependencies. So as I said, there's no flow view within the app, but there is the ability to look through and see if jobs have predecessors and successors within the dependencies view. So if I touch on that, you should be able to see that this job has 1 predecessor, which is listed at the top, and 1 successor listed underneath. I'm just going to move that little WebEx button out of the way. There we go. Although there's no flow, it is possible to step your way through the dependency chain of jobs if you need to at this point. So let's pop back. The final item in the inquiries section is the most asked for thing that we've had come through, which was the ability to retrieve job logs from job executions. So if I touch on job logs, we can then send a command to the backend server to retrieve the job execution log file, in this case the standard out file from this execution of the job, although I could choose the agent log if there's one available, the error log, so forth. Let me just go ahead and submit the request to get that log file back. And there we are. That's the standard out file from this job. As you can probably see, it runs on a Windows host and just executes a dir command. So it's pretty quick for troubleshooting, very useful. If a job fails and it's written something to the log, you're able to view it on your device and hopefully take some corrective actions. So that's the inquiry section of job interaction, and then underneath this is the operations section. This is the part that's straightforward to anyone who's used AutoSys or administered AutoSys or supported it over any length of time. This is the equivalent to your send event commands. This is where you can issue commands against jobs, such as placing a job on hold, for starting a job, and so on. So I am going to place this job on hold by touching on hold, and the system is going to ask me, am I sure? That's the are you sure prompt. If I send yes to this and jump back, I'll then jump back to the detail view of this job, and if I refresh it like this, you should see in the middle of the screen that the job status has now changed to on hold. I hope that's clear. I'm just going to take that one off hold now because I don't really want it on hold. We'd like it to stay running. And I should say any actions taken against jobs, like, you know, a send event type command, for start, job on hold, whatever it is, all of those, when they're sent by the app to the backend AutoSys system, will be trapped in AutoTrack, provided you've got it switched on, with a comment that says that the command was sent from this mobile app and the name of the user that sent the command, as well as the usual date and timestamps. So those are the functions that are available through the AutoSys REST server that are exposed through the app. So hopefully you can get the idea that it's pretty quick, it's very easy to refresh, and it's pretty easy to touch your way through, find out detailed information about your job executions, to retrieve log files if you need to, and also to take actions against jobs such as placing them on hold or force starting them or so on. So that's the job section. If you look down now to the bottom of the screen and look where it says Jobs, Machines, Global Variables, I'll show you what's available under Machines. Now what's available under Machines is read-only, and it really is a list of machines, and you can pop into each machine by touching it and look at some attributes of that machine. The most important one probably being status, which is 3 up from the bottom, to tell you whether a machine is online or missing or offline, or whatever status it happens to be in. So again, that can help you with some troubleshooting by having a look at status of machines to check perhaps why jobs aren't running. That is pretty much all the info that is available again about machines through the REST server. So that's what we have into the app today. So the last section of this is global variables. If I touch on global variables, then I have a list of all the global variables again that I'm permitted to see in the AutoSys instance. So again, the policy, the ASGVAR, I think it's called, the global variable policy in EM is the thing that dictates what gets sent to the screen for the user that's logged in. So I've only got one global variable in this instance called testgv, which you can hopefully see on the list. But as we said with the jobs, there is a search capability in here. You may have hundreds or thousands of global variables. It really varies. But again, you can search for particular ones if you need to in here, or step through the pages. If I touch on testgv, I can have a look at the global variable, and I can see its name and also its value and what time the value was set. I can also add a global variable here with the big plus button, which looks like this, which I'm not going to do. But what I can also do with an existing global variable is I can change it or delete it just by sliding the global variable entry in the table across to the right like this. I'm able to change the value. Let's put some nonsense on the end. It doesn't matter what we put, and say yes. Hopefully you can see that's updated the global variable value already. Or I could have deleted the global variable from that screen. So those are the main functions of the app with jobs, machines, and global variables. You've probably spotted this thing sliding out from the left. That's the kind of the hamburger menu from the left. That's to help you find your way around the app as well if you need it. So from here you can jump straight back to the launch pad. Or you can jump straight to machines or jobs, or even directly straight to the job filter section if that's what you want to do. So that's just another way of finding your way around, as are the buttons along the bottom. So there we go. That is a demo of the mobile app for AutoSys, and at that point, I'll ask if there's any questions.
Thank you, Anthony, for that. There are a couple questions that came in through the chat line. One question is, how is the app set up with AutoSys? Is there a licensing fee? And whom do we go to for support?
So the way there's 3 questions at once. So the way that the app works with AutoSys, as I said earlier, there's an optional component for AutoSys called the REST web server. There's one per instance of AutoSys that you can choose to install or not install, but for this you will need to install it. And then it's effectively a web server. It is a web server. It's an Apache Tomcat server that you configure to expose information about your AutoSys instance. But it all works through the EEM security module, so it's all secured. Now the way that the app talks to that depends. It depends on your environment and what your company policies are with regard to things like mobile devices and security. So the most common method that people use is to have what's called a VPN access into their environment. You're probably accustomed to seeing that thing on your laptop, remote connectivity and so forth, or your desktop at home. But the same thing applies on mobile. There are VPN clients that work on mobile, and once you've connected to your corporate network via VPN, then once the app is configured, which I'll show you in a second, it will talk to the REST web server. So the way that the app is actually configured is, if you remember at the beginning, there's a list of instances in here which are defined within the app. So if I just show you quickly what the definition of an instance looks like, this is where you tell the app's instance entry what the backend server name is, the port, and so on. So you're adding entries in here for each AutoSys instance. So that's how you configure it to talk to AutoSys. I think the next question was, is there a license fee for using it? Yes, there is. It's the default method for licensing is a usage-based number of users. The more users per customer that it's used, then the cheaper it becomes. It's a kind of tiered licensing, but we're very flexible on things like licensing. And the way to get information about the app from us is to drop us an email to info@extratechnology.com. I think we'll put this address in at the end somewhere, a written form for people to pick up. Or I guess, Jean, people can contact their CA account rep as well. Is that right?
Yes, that would work as well.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you. I have another question here.
Mm-hmm.
Is the use of the app as simple as downloading it and linking it to AutoSys?
Yes, it is. In a sense, essentially, yes. It's pretty straightforward. So there will be some administration involved, obviously, where the user has to log in, has to take the app and have it configured to work with AutoSys. But it's, as I kept saying earlier on, or tried to, the fact that the app authenticates against EEM means that the security is, you've really already done it. So there's really nothing to configure on your device except the instance entry.
Great, thanks. And can you remind us one more time, what version or versions of AutoSys does this work with?
Well, it'll work with 11.3.5 or higher. Now, I know 11.3.5 is not supported anymore, so hopefully perhaps no one's using that anymore, I don't know. For best results, we recommend you use 11.3.6 Service Pack 7 or 8 because there's a little bit of extra stuff in 7 and higher which allows this filtering piece to work a bit better. This filtering based on job types and job statuses is the part that's in SP7 and higher, but it will work with anything above 11.3.5.
Great, thank you. And at this time, there are no more questions. So I'd just like to remind the audience, if you would like more information on this AutoSight app, you can contact extratechnology.com or you can talk to your account rep. Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks all.
This concludes our webcast.